Welcome to another edition of Rap Life Sports. Today we have a special treat. We have Ricky Price from Duke University, one of the top players that ever played at Duke, as well as one of the top players that ever played in the ACC. Ricky, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Long time waiting, man, to be on your show. Thanks for finally getting me on there.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you blessing us with your presence. I'm a big Duke fan. I had a pleasure to meet you and some of the other guys at the Coach K Academy a couple years back. I think that was 2000 after they won the 2015. That was that class. Jai and all those guys had just left, and there was talk of a possible, another national championship because I think at that time the guys they had coming in were long. They had a lot of length right there. So I want to start off asking you, how did you get to Duke? Like, what was the recruiting process for you? When you were coming out of high school.
Well, actually, it's a crazy story because both my parents went to UCLA, and so everyone thought that I would go to UCLA because I had history there. Obviously, my parents were there. I'm from LA. Mm-hmm. So it's the obvious choice. UCLA was also a dominant program during that time. But, I just wanted something different. I wanted to get away from home. I wanted to grow up. I wanted to see different things. And, I had always liked the Duke program. I didn't see myself, at Duke until I really cultivated and got a relationship with Coach K. And, he was the deciding factor for me, along with, playing in the ACC, playing on TV 30 times a year. And then obviously, being at a good academic institution like Duke, I mean, for me, it was a home run.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So when you got to Duke, once you got there, what was the the adjustment period that you had to make? You know how sometimes you come out of high school, you got a big name, used to scoring or doing whatever it is that you need to do or want to do on the floor. And so now you've been recruited by Duke. Coach K wants you, and you get to Duke. So what were the adjustments that you had to make?
Well, it's always a huge adjustment. Anytime you go from high school to college, that adjustment in itself is always huge. But, for me, traveling 3,000 miles from California to North Carolina, that was a huge adjustment, in terms of the weather, the people, the Southern draw. It took me forever to understand what people were talking about here in the South. Everybody, everywhere. I'm like, what? Everybody, everywhere? Everybody. I'm like, well. So it took me about 2.5, 3 months to figure out what they were talking about. Okay. And I'm sure they felt the same way about me. They probably say I sounded like Ice Cube or Snoop. But in terms of basketball, mm-hmm. I thought I fit in pretty good. I think defensively, was the biggest adjustment. I didn't really play too much defense in high school. And obviously Coach K is a stickler about, the defensive side of basketball. And, one of my proudest achievements at Duke was to be voted the Defensive Player of the Year as a sophomore. And so I thought that was really, really cool. But, basketball-wise, just playing hard on every possession, making it a habit of competing on every play, and then really challenging myself on the defensive end were probably the biggest adjustments I had to make.
Wow. And see, a lot of people forget that you were voted that a defensive player because we all, watched you play and looked at your athletic prowesses that you had, being able to, be a high flyer, and being very athletic, quick, off the dribble. And people forget that you were also a defensive player. So that's a credit to you, working hard, once you got there. What was it like having that? When did you really realize, like, wait a minute, I'm at Duke, this is different? Because, at Duke, once you put that uniform on, that's just a bullseye. It's a target. When did you realize, like, wait a minute, every game is just not a regular game? Like, they coming at us like this is a national championship.
Yeah, that's a good question. And we were the top headliner game on everybody's schedule. And so, everybody had us circled and bullseye as the game, for that season.
Right.
And so, It was tough. But I love going into an opponent's home gym and
Mm-hmm.
beating them. I love silencing the crowd. I think Coach K loved that. You know, he taught us to and prepared us to be ready for all type of hostile environments. And
Sure.
obviously playing ACC, all the environments were hostile. And then, you know, when you get to the NCAA tournament, most of those sites are kind of neutral, but it just prepares you for anything. But you know, I think when I got to Duke and seeing how much hatred, you know,
Yes.
especially in North Carolina, I think Duke is more loved nationwide. But when you get in the state of North Carolina, this is very much a pro North Carolina state where, you know,
Okay.
most of the people here cheer for the University of North Carolina, and Duke is an afterthought. And so, you know, once you get on North Carolina soil, you see that you're like the underdog. But you know, I relish it. I loved it, and I appreciated, you know, being that bullseye on everybody's schedule.
So talk to me, because you mentioned it. Talk to me about that North Carolina rivalry. Because my business partner is funny. See, he's a North Carolina fan,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a Duke fan. So you know, we always go at it once that you know that those two games that are being played. Talk to me about that rivalry, because you know even Jay Billis says it as an analyst, it always delivers.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you don't really get to know what it is until you actually get into it and become part of the rivalry. You know, I think it is the best rivalry in all of sports. You know, I've seen Michigan, Ohio State, you know, Yankees, Red Sox, Lakers, Celtics. But the Duke North Carolina rivalry is just something different. I think the proximity of the schools, you know, being 8 miles apart,
Sure.
15 minutes away driving. I think the fact that, you know, all the players are in close proximity, we hang out with each other, you know, at different events throughout the year, playing in the ACC, it just brings it. And, you know, usually both programs are ranked somewhere in the top 5, top 10 every year with two of the best coaches. And it delivers every time. Jay Billis is absolutely right. And it goes in waves and cycles. You know, sometimes Duke will have a 8-1 winning
Sure.
streak, and then it'll flip, and then Carolina will have it. You know, unfortunately, when I was at Duke, we didn't have much success against Carolina. I think I was
Okay.
1-8 in my career against Carolina. But then after I left, you know, that tide changed. So, you know, it's a special game, special players, and like Jay said, it always delivers, man. It's one that I always look forward to.
You know, it's funny that you say that, man, because it took away my next question. I was going to ask you a question from an arrogance standpoint about the you know the
Okay.
Duke and North Carolina rivalry. What the question was basically is with that rivalry, especially the way it's been going lately, right? You know, since you left, and it's still a big rivalry. You know, it's still a big game from Duke's standpoint, just talking about from Duke's standpoint, even though you want to beat North Carolina, right? Even though the rivalry, the brand that you guys have built, all you guys that have come through Duke and built at North Carolina, at Duke, is it even though North Carolina is a big game, is the end goal still is just it's about the championships. It's about hanging up those banners. Is it we want to beat them, but we got other fish to fry.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I can't front and tell you that game's not important. I mean, it's circled
Right.
on the calendar each and every year.
Okay.
And there are some times during the course of the year we might play 3 times. You play home and away every year. You've
Okay.
been lucky. Sometimes you're lucky enough to get to play them again in the ACC tournament, which
Sure.
is always a treat. But at the end of the day, you're right. You know, the end goal is to win the conference, to win the conference championship, and then the overall goal is to win the NCAA, you know, championship. You know, I think if you lose to North Carolina 3 times in a year, but win a national championship in that same year, I think you've had the better year. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so that's what's most important. And some people wouldn't say that, but at the end of the day, the end goal is always to win it all.
Okay. That's why you answered you answered my question. I was putting a little arrogance on it. And that wasn't you, that was me more so like, hey, look, you know, it's all right, but we need the rings. We need the ring. We need the ring.
No
that
doubt.
brand is so special. When I got there, if you could talk about for our fans, the only university I've seen that has the same type of brotherhood that Duke has is Miami, and but my as far as on the football field, but I don't see it as much because of, they've had a little bit down on their program lately. Can you talk about the special bond that has been created at Duke with that brotherhood, where guys who came before you and after you, they know who Ricky Price is. If you could speak
Absolutely.
to that.
Well, that's something that's been created over the years. You want to have a family atmosphere, and I think Coach created that. But most importantly, I think what's synonymous with everybody, we all love Duke. We all love playing at Duke. We all love being students at Duke. And as a result, it makes it easy for us to fraternize with each other. That event you're talking about is Coach K Academy
Right.
Fantasy Camp, which is really a great situation because it's a time of the year where everybody can come together. During the year, especially basketball season, guys are playing, coaches are coaching, the team is in season. It's tough to get everybody together. But in the summertime, during K Academy, you got a chance to see 50, 60 guys come back in somewhat of a reunion type thing
Right.
surrounding K Academy. And it's great. And the brotherhood is real. I mean, I was talking to Daniel Ewing the other day.
Yeah, I know,
He
Danny.
years removed from me. Chris Carrawell's the guy I played with, Jeff Capel, all these guys I played with, but then guys like Quinn Cook, for my birthday, I go out to LA where I'm from and I hit him up. I'm like, yo, Quinn, it's my birthday. Love to get tickets to go to the Rockets game. So LA Lakers are playing the Houston Rockets during my birthday. It works out. I get to go to the game, and it was great. And that couldn't happen if we didn't have a relationship. And even though he's years younger than me, we still have that, and we can still, text back and forth and catch up and see how each other's doing. And that's real. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure he does as well. Lastly, on the mentorship side, the kids that are at Duke now, the coaches in their ear is one thing, but it's better when you have former players that you can lean on and talk to about your experience, what you're going through, to help you navigate through, the tough times and the good times as a Duke basketball player. And I think player to player, former to current player, is a great way to do that.
Okay, and I've always bragged on Duke for this particular thing, and it goes into the brotherhood. And if you could talk about this as well, from just from your perspective of what you've seen, it is amazing to me, the coaching staff, that Coach K is the only person that didn't play at Duke. That's the coaching staff. Can you talk about just the uniqueness when you look across the country and you look at other programs? Yeah, they may have, one guy, maybe two guys, but the whole coaching staff, and he's been doing this year after year after year for years, about him just making sure he's taking care of his guys.
Absolutely. I mean, I think maybe Coach K and Jim Boeheim may be the only coaches that have like more than 25 or 30 years on their resume at one school.
Right.
And so for Coach K to be there, he is the bond that kind of mends us all together. And so now when I'm talking to Robert Brickey or Johnny Dawkins or Tommy Amaker or Christian Leitner or Grant Hill, and then later on, Jay Williams or Daniel Ewing or Andre Dawkins or Seth Curry, the thing that binds us all is we all play for Coach K.
Right.
And so, that's great that we can always come home and he's the father figure, so to speak, that's still there and still keeping us together. He does a great job, obviously, putting together his staff. He likes to have guys who were current players on this year's team is no different with Chris Carrawell, Nate James, Nolan Smith, and John Shire, all former players. But again, in terms of mentorship and teaching, what better way to get to your guys than to have guys who have been there and done that and played for you to teach the next generation how to do just that. And so, it's a great program that he's built. We got great principles and standards, and a culture of winning has been built, and hopefully that'll continue. Everyone asks, when coach leaves, what's going to happen? But, it's one day that's going to happen. But
Right.
until then, we got to keep this thing going.
And that's one of the things I've always noticed about you and the other guys that, that played at Duke. You guys have a sense of just taking in the moment, not worry about the next game or the previous game. We're going to seize this moment. I'm glad to hear that you say that. Like, yeah, one day he's going to retire, but we'll deal with that when we get to it.
Right. I mean, I shouldn't speculate. I mean, he's still there now. He says that he's, energized and feeling good about, the upcoming season. And as long as that happens, let's keep him in there as long as we can. I mean, we've had a great run with him as head coach, and hopefully that continues.
I remember talking to Bricky one time, and then I remember hearing Jay Will say this, so I want to get your thoughts. They both said they'd rather play for this Coach K than the one that they played for. What's the difference between Coach K when you played and the Coach K that's there now?
That's a great question. I mean, Coach is obviously older now, more reserved. I think he delegates and gives a lot of responsibilities to his assistants. But Coach was really hands-on when I played for him. There was not a moment that he didn't know what was going on with you, the program, and everything, the heartbeat of the team. And, he saw everything. You had no plays, no possessions off, and he was really on you. I mean, we got the cursing, we got the yelling, we got the screaming, we got the love, we got the hugs, we got everything. Now, Coach is more reserved and laid back, and he doesn't really, yell or scream unless he absolutely has to.
Sure.
But, such is life. Such is life. We just called Coach in his early 40s and 50s when he still had that, that fire. And
right.
It's still there, but it's more reserved. And he allows his assistants to go ahead and do more of the stuff, that he doesn't want to do.
Well, Ricky, talk to us about what you have going on now. I see that you doing basketball camps and you're teaching the next generation. Talk to us about what you have going on and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. We're about 9 years in that I've had a company called Game Ready Skills and Development Training. And what we do essentially is we train kids on skill development training, basketball training, speed and agility training. We do camps, we do clinics, we do team building programs, all things basketball. And, I'm not an expert in too many things, but I do know basketball.
Okay.
At a pretty high level. And, kids respect, the tutelage that I give. And, parents are willing to invest in their kids. In doing so, we actually have an upcoming camp coming up here on July 27th and August 3rd. We're doing 2 weeks of summer camp madness. Even though COVID is going on, we're trying to get these kids out the house and, back in the gym, being productive, playing basketball. And I enjoy it. I get to wear a T-shirt and shorts every day and, talk hoops and teach hoops and be around the game. And it energizes me. And you can make a pretty good living from it too. So it all works out well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. When you're teaching these camps, when you're doing these camps and you're looking at the landscape of college basketball, and now you're going to be teaching a new group of kids who's going to be coming behind that. What are your thoughts on, the players being able now going forward? I know it's in California. I know it hasn't filtered out to everywhere just yet, but, being able to get paid off their likeness and kind of with you seeing that and also seeing, talking to parents, as you had these camps, what do you think are some of the most important steps to put in place to kind of still help the kids from not, falling into traps as far as dealing with, getting paid from their likeness?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a big thing that just came down here in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
In sports, I'm kind of upset because I wish they would have had this in the 90s.
Okay.
I could have got paid off my likeliness, but I think it's great. For the longest, the NCAA has been, capitalizing off of student athletes and making billions of dollars, and the athlete is just getting a free education, which is nothing to grumble about. but it's not apples to apples anymore. It's apples to oranges. And, now they can start to make a little bit of money, on the side, creating their own brand even while in college. And so they still got a lot of things to iron out. It's not going to be equal across the board. Obviously, football and basketball are going to lead the way. But at least that conversation is heading in the right direction, which I like. And, once they get things ironed out and kids can capitalize off some of those things, endorsements and different things they can get on the side, I think that'd be good for them. And it would help, their families as well at home, travel and have a chance to, see them play and not worry financially as much as they have while their kid is in college.
And my last two questions for you, the first one, and when I saw this dealing with, Christian Laettner and dealing with different players at Duke, can you educate our audience that will see this, that Duke players are not born with a silver spoon? I don't know why people think you guys, everybody just, comes from a rich, well-to-do family. I'm not saying everybody comes from the hood either, but I'm just saying because of Duke, the program, the academic side of it, everyone thinks that you guys, when you step on the court, you kind of spoiled brats, playing basketball, not realizing like, no, you guys, you have to deal with some real players on the court right now.
Oh, no question. I mean, I've heard all of those innuendos and those gripes from fans. You saw the Jalen Rose documentary of the Fab Five, where he talked about Grant Hill and some of the other guys being silver spoon guys and, having everything. But at the end of the day, all the guys you mentioned can flat out hoop. You can say what you want about Laettner. In college, he might be the greatest college basketball player of all time, based on credentials, based on stats, based on accomplishment and achievement. I mean, he was highly decorated and he had game and he could back it up. Same with Grant Hill and some of these other silver spoon guys that you may think we've had. And, at the end of the day, I don't regret, going to Duke. Obviously, I'm graduating there. When you walk around and people ask you where you went to school and you say that you went to Duke and graduated from Duke, that gives you instant credibility, as a person, as an individual. And it's like, ooh, okay, this dude is highly educated and he knows his stuff. And then when you add the basketball credentials to it and other things, I mean, there's a lot to be proud of, being a Duke alumni.
Well, like I said, I'm a fan, so I'm glad that you was at Duke. I had you brought a lot of joy, at least personally for me, to watch you play, because I root for everybody that plays at Duke, that have played, and that'll be there now. So I always consider myself, an honorary member of the brotherhood, and I've been blessed to have connections to you, Bricky. I've talked to Daniel Ewing a couple of times. I say he's got his podcast going. I got to get him on here as well. My last question for you, with players coming to your camp, even players that's not coming to your camp, what would be a word that you could put out there for the next generation, just dealing with going to college, playing basketball, education, just the whole 9 yards, that you could let them know to something that they could take to heart?
Absolutely. And I think recently, the basketball community suffered a huge blow by losing Kobe Bryant.
Yes.
And, Kobe was synonymous with winning. He was synonymous with the Lakers, but really he was synonymous with how hard he worked on his individual game. And I try to tell my players and kids all the time that if you really want something, you really want to achieve something, you got to work at it. And I think Kobe exemplified that. And if we can learn anything, from the game of basketball, it's his approach that, we should adopt and kids should adopt. Because if you couple talent with hard work, I mean, incredible things can happen. And that's what we saw with his career. And, there's others behind him, that are being the same. Jason Tatum is another one. He's another one that he works extremely hard, good young player. But you have to relish the hard work and the fact that you got to put the time in. And if you do that, you'll get the results, and good things will happen.
I appreciate you once again, Ricky, coming on the show, man, and blessing us with your presence and knowledge and insight that you were giving us today. We want to have you back on. I'm trying to work on putting together a Duke roundtable and have you and some other guys on. Hopefully, we'll get some college basketball, but safeties first. I will put up the link to your website on there, so when everyone sees this come out, they can check out your link and get with you and send their kids to your program. So continue to be blessed. Continue everything that you're doing in the community and everything, and make sure you stay safe.
My man, I appreciate you, Otis. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
God bless.